everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be checking out Overcoming Distress, a science-based guide for men by Conrad Reich. And, I think a lot of guys out there listening will really relate to this one. Have you ever felt like the world just kind of expects way too much from you? Like you're constantly under pressure to measure up?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
This book digs into that feeling that so many men experience today. It's all about how we deal with distress in this crazy modern world,
It really is. And what I appreciate about Riker's approach is that he doesn't just say stress is bad. He goes deeper. He breaks it down like distress is a real physical and mental response, and he's not afraid to say it's a big problem for a lot of guys.
Absolutely.
Like, did you know that something like 33 million men in the U.S. are dealing with distress? It's a huge number.
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of people.
It's not just feeling a little overwhelmed, right? It's serious stuff. And if we don't figure out how to manage it well, it can have some real consequences.
Yeah, and that's why I think this book is so important. It's not just some vague self-help stuff. It's based on actual science. And it's written specifically for the challenges men face today. One thing that really stuck with me was how Riker explains the whole fight or flight response. Like, that primal instinct.
Oh, yeah.
And how it applies to the kind of stress we deal with now.
Right. It's fascinating how that works.
It's like we're not running from tigers anymore, but our bodies still react like we are.
Exactly. Our wiring hasn't quite caught up to modern life, has it?
Not really.
Like, think about it. Back in the day, that burst of adrenaline from fight or flight, it was like essential. It got us ready to face danger or run for our lives.
Right.
But nowadays, the dangers are like a crazy boss, bills piling up, relationship drama, that kind of stuff.
It's all mental.
Yeah, but our bodies react like it's a life or death situation.
So it's like we're flooded with stress hormones even when we're stuck in traffic, just trying to pay the bills.
Exactly. And that takes a toll.
Yeah, it's no wonder we feel so on edge all the time. And as the book points out, this kind of chronic stress can really mess with your health.
Oh, yeah, big time.
I mean, we're talking about weakened immune systems, heart problems, anxiety, depression. The list goes on and on.
You name it.
It's scary.
And it's not just our physical health that takes a hit. Riker argues that the expectations society puts on men that plays a huge role in how we experience and handle stress.
That's so true.
It's almost like this unspoken rule that we have to be tough and stoic all the time.
Right.
Always the provider, never show any weakness.
Don't cry.
Exactly. And that can be incredibly damaging.
Yeah, it's like we're stuck in this box defined by all these outdated expectations.
You got it.
Even expressing your emotions becomes a challenge.
Like Riker gives this great example in the book about the whole boys don't cry thing.
Right. Think about the message that sends to young boys.
Oh, absolutely.
It's basically teaching them that showing emotion is wrong.
Right, from the get-go.
Which makes it really tough for them to process stress and ask for help when they need it.
And those emotions, they don't just disappear. They have to go somewhere.
Exactly.
And that's where you see things like anger issues, substance abuse, even physical health problems popping up. It's like all connected.
It's all related. And what's interesting is that Riker points out that these societal expectations aren't set in stone. They've actually changed a lot over time, which might be why we see even higher levels of stress in younger generations.
Millennials, for example.
It makes you wonder if some of the ways we've traditionally dealt with stress as men are actually backfiring.
That's a good question.
And speaking of things that are adding to our stress levels, we can't ignore technology. It's supposed to make life easier. But honestly, it often feels like it's just piling on more pressure.
It's a real double-edged sword, isn't it? Riker highlights this stat that really blew my mind. Almost 70% of people say technology is a source of stress in their lives. We're constantly connected, bombarded with notifications, expected to be on 24/7. It's like our brains never get a break.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
It really is.
And the always-on culture, it just blurs the lines between work and personal life. You're checking emails at dinner, taking work calls on the weekend.
It's like you can never escape.
It creates this feeling that you're always tethered to your job, even when you should be relaxed.
And then there's the whole social media thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's like impossible to avoid comparing yourself to others,
It's true.
You see everyone's perfect, curated online lives.
They're highlight reels.
And it makes you feel like you're not good enough.
You.
It's a recipe for insecurity and stress, especially for men who are already dealing with all those societal expectations about success and achievement.
Yeah, it's like social media is this giant highlight reel of everyone else's success.
Right.
And it can make your own life feel pretty dull in comparison.
It's tough to escape that feeling.
But the book doesn't just bash technology.
No, it doesn't.
It also acknowledges that it can be helpful, right?
Oh, definitely. Riker points out that technology can actually give us tools to manage stress. Think about it. We have mindfulness apps, wearable devices that track your heart rate and stress level, even online support groups where you can connect with people going through similar things.
It's about using technology for good instead of letting it control us.
Exact. Harnessing the power.
So we don't have to chuck our smartphones out the window, but we can be more intentional with how we use them.
So choose how they fit into our lives.
So we've talked about societal expectations in technology, but there's another big piece of this puzzle I want to explore before we wrap up.
What's that?
Relationships. Because stress doesn't just affect us as individuals, it also affects the people we're closest to.
Oh yeah, big time. Riker dedicates a whole chapter to this in the book, and it's full of insight.
Like he shares this really interesting story about John, a lawyer who was so swamped with work stress that he brought it home with him.
I remember that one.
He was irritable, withdrawn, constantly on edge,
Classic signs of unmanaged stress.
and it really damaged his relationship with his partner.
It's a good reminder that we don't deal with stress in a vacuum.
Right.
It spills over into every part of our lives, and it can have a huge impact on our relationships.
It's not just romantic relationships either. It affects friendships, family connections, everything.
Absolutely. It's across the board.
And you know what's interesting is that Riker says it's not just about how much stress we're feeling. It's also about how we see that stress.
That's a good point.
Like if we view it as a challenge to overcome instead of a threat to our well-being,
Okay.
it can actually make our relationships stronger.
How so?
It's about facing those challenges as a team rather than letting them divide us.
Together.
Exactly.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
It's not about avoiding stress altogether because let's be honest, that's impossible.
Can't run from it forever.
Right. It's about changing our mindset and learning to handle stress in a way that builds resilience, both for ourselves and our relationship.
I like that. Building resilience
So it's not about eliminating stress, but about using it to grow.
to become stronger.
And that's what this book is all about.
Okay, so we've talked about how stress affects our relationships. But let's talk about work, because let's be real, work can be super stressful.
Oh, absolutely.
And Riker doesn't sugarcoat it either. He straight up says that work is a major source of stress for a lot of people.
And he's got the numbers to back it up.
Oh yeah, he mentions that 1 million employees miss work every single day because of stress.
1 million people a day.
That's right. It's a huge issue, and it just shows how widespread workplace stress really is.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it. It's not just a personal problem, it's like a societal thing.
You got it.
So what are some of the main culprits behind all this workplace stress?
Well, Riker breaks it down. He talks about things like too much work, crazy deadlines, and of course those good old-fashioned interpersonal conflicts, the office drama.
Yeah, we've all been there.
That's like a recipe for a pressure cooker.
And it's not just the mental and emotional toll either.
No, it's not.
Riker talks about the physical effects too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Headaches, muscle tension, digestive problems, a weakened immune system.
It's like your body is waving a giant red flag saying, hey, slow down.
It's a serious reminder that stress isn't just in our heads, it's messing with our bodies too.
Big time.
And Riker have this really powerful anecdote in the book about an ER nurse.
Oh, I remember that one.
She was experiencing all these physical symptoms because of her job.
Yeah, it was tough.
The constant pressure, the long hours,
Yeah.
the emotional weight of dealing with life and death situations. It was all taking a toll.
It just shows that even people in professions we think of as strong or heroic,
Right.
they're not immune to stress.
Nobody is.
And one of the big takeaways from the book is that if we ignore these signs, both mental and physical, it can lead to serious health problems down the road.
So what can we do about it? Seems like we're always hearing about self-care and work-life balance,
Right.
but those things can feel pretty out of reach when you're drowning in deadlines and email.
It's tough to put into practice.
So does Riker offer any practical advice?
He does. He actually gives some really concrete strategies for managing workplace stress. And it's not just about lighting a scented candle and hoping for the best.
Okay, good, because I need more than that.
One of the most effective things he talks about is setting boundaries between work and personal life.
That makes sense,
It sounds simple, but it can be really hard to do.
especially in today's world.
Exactly. We're always connected.
So how do you actually set those boundaries?
Well, Riker suggests things like setting specific times when you don't check email.
Okay.
Maybe creating a dedicated workspace at home so you can mentally leave the office when you're done.
I like that.
Or even just being more mindful about not bringing work stress into your personal interactions.
So it's about creating some separation.
Exactly. Claiming your mental space.
That's so important.
And Riker also suggests using mindfulness techniques to manage stress in the moment.
Okay.
Like when you feel overwhelmed, take a few deep breaths, step away from your desk for a quick walk, or try a short meditation.
Just to reset.
Exactly. It helps calm your nervous system and get you back to the present.
I can see how that would be helpful.
It's about finding those little moments of peace throughout the day.
Even when it feels like everything is crazy.
Absolutely. And for more long-term solutions, Riker is a big advocate for good time management skills.
Time management is key.
It really is. Learning to prioritize tasks, delegate effectively, and avoid procrastination can make a big difference.
It's about feeling in control instead of feeling control.
Exactly.
Before we move on from work stresses, one more thing I want to touch on.
What's that?
The link between chronic stress and mental health.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
It's something people don't always talk about.
But the connection is definitely there.
So how does Riker explain that connection?
Well, he gets into the science of it. He talks about neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers in our brains that control things like our mood, sleep, and focus.
Okay.
When we're constantly stressed, our bodies produce too much of certain neurotransmitters, like cortisol and adrenaline.
Stress hormone.
Exactly. They're helpful in small doses, but over time they can really mess things up.
It's like our bodies get stuck in that fight or flight mode,
Always on high alert.
even when there's no real danger,
Over time, this can lead to imbalances in those neurotransmitters.
which can then lead to anxiety and depression.
That's right.
It's not just about feeling stressed or down.
Yeah.
It can actually change our brains.
It's just a physical change.
Riker uses this analogy of a dripping faucet.
Oh, yeah, I like that one.
A few drips here and there might not seem like a big deal, but over time, that constant dripping can wear down even the strongest foundation.
That's a good visual.
It shows how chronic stress can slowly but surely damage our mental health.
And Riker also talks about how genetics play a role.
Oh yeah, genetics are a factor in a lot of things.
Some people are just naturally more sensitive to stress.
Like they have a smaller stress bucket.
Exactly. It fills up faster.
But here's the good news.
What's that?
Even if you're genetically predisposed to stress, you can still manage it.
You're not stuck.
And that's where those strategies we were talking about come in. Exercise, mindfulness, a healthy diet, setting boundaries.
Those are all tools that can help us build resilience.
It's like building a stronger foundation for that house.
So even if the faucet is dripping, it's less likely to cause serious damage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back to technology for a minute.
Okay.
We talked about how it can be stressful, but Riker also explores the positive side.
It's a complex relationship.
Technology has definitely made our lives easier in a lot of ways,
No doubt about that.
but it's also brought new challenges.
New kinds of stress.
Riker uses this term, technostress.
I've heard that.
It basically describes the stress we feel from interacting with technology.
It makes sense.
And it shows up in so many ways.
Like how?
Feeling overwhelmed by the amount of information we're exposed to.
Information overload.
The pressure to be constantly connected.
Always available.
Struggling to disconnect from work.
That's a big one.
And of course, all the notifications fighting for our attention.
It's never ending.
It's like our brains are being pulled in 1,000 different directions.
It's exhausting.
And then there's social media.
Oh, yeah. Social media is a whole other beast.
Riker says it can be a breeding ground for comparison and insecurity,
I can see that.
especially for men who are already facing so much pressure to achieve
We're constantly bombarded with images of other people's seemingly perfect lives.
their highlight reels.
It makes our own lives feel inadequate.
And it feeds into that cycle of self-doubt.
It's a slippery slope.
But Riker doesn't just leave us feeling hopeless about technology.
No, he doesn't.
He talks about how it can also be a tool for managing stress.
That's right. There are a lot of apps and websites for mindfulness, meditation, and relaxation techniques.
I've tried some of those.
It can be really helpful.
And there are wearable devices that track your stress levels and give you feedback.
So you can learn to control your body's responses.
And online communities where you can connect with people who are going through similar things.
Finding support.
It's a reminder that technology isn't inherently bad.
It's about how we use it.
Making conscious choices, setting boundaries, and using technology to help us instead of hurt us.
I like that. Using it for good.
Now, there's another topic that Riker brings up that can be a little uncomfortable to talk about.
What's that?
The connection between stress and substance abuse.
Oh, yeah. That's a sensitive subject.
But it's important to address.
Absolutely.
Riker talks about how chronic stress can make people more likely to abuse substances.
As a way to cope.
It's a way to numb the pain or escape from problems.
It's not a real solution.
And it can be really hard to break free from that cycle.
It's a slippery slope.
One of the things I found really interesting was how Riker explains how stress affects the brain's reward system.
Oh, yeah. That's fascinating.
When we're stressed, our brains are low on dopamine,
The feel-good chemical.
and we crave things that give us that quick dopamine hit,
And substances can do that.
at least for a short time.
But it's a temporary fix.
And in the long run, it makes things worse. Riker tells a really moving story about a man named John.
I remember John.
His work stress led him to start drinking heavily.
It's a classic example of how stress can spiral out of control,
It's a reminder that substance abuse can happen to anyone.
no matter who you are.
And Riker emphasizes that it's not a character flaw, it's a human issue.
And there's help available.
If you're struggling with substance abuse, reach out for help.
Recovery is possible.
Now, before we wrap up this part, I want to talk about something I found really insightful.
What's that?
Riker's discussion of complementary therapies for managing stress.
Oh, yeah, like acupuncture and massage.
Exactly. He goes beyond the traditional approaches and explores things like acupuncture, massage, and aromatherapy.
I like that. He's thinking outside the box.
And these therapies are actually getting more and more scientific support.
People are realizing that they can be really effective.
And Riker suggests that they can be a great addition to a more holistic approach to stress management.
So it's not just about medication or therapy.
It's about finding what works for you and creating a personalized plan.
I like that idea.
For example, he talks about how acupuncture can help reduce anxiety.
By stimulating certain points in the body.
Right, and how massage can relieve muscle tension and improve circulation.
It's all about relaxation.
And how lavender aromatherapy can help you relax and sleep better.
It's about adding more tools to your stress management toolkit.
Exactly.
So it's not just about coping. It's about addressing the root causes of stress in a more holistic way.
Finding what works for you. Yeah, it's like we're moving beyond just putting Band-Aids on the problem and actually getting to the root of it.
A more holistic approach, for sure.
And, we've covered a lot of ground today, but it feels like we've only scratched the surface of what this book has to offer.
Absolutely. There's so much more to unpack.
So for anyone out there who's feeling overwhelmed by stress and wants some real strategies to take back control, I highly recommend checking out Overcoming Distress by Conrad Riker.
It's a fantastic resource.
It's full of practical advice, actionable steps, and real-life examples that make it really relatable.
You can actually see how these strategies work in real life.
And you can find it on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
So it's easy to access.
Now, before we wrap things up, I want to leave you with something to think about. Riker touches on this in the book, and it's really interesting. We've talked a lot about the negative effects of stress.
Right.
But is there a flip side? Can stress actually be good for us?
That's a great question. And it's something that researchers are starting to explore more and more.
Okay.
There's this concept called post-traumatic growth.
I've heard of that.
It suggests that people who go through really tough times, like trauma or loss,
Right.
they can actually come out of those experiences stronger and more resilient.
So it's like this stress, while difficult in the moment, can actually lead to positive change.
Exactly. It's like a catalyst for growth.
So it's not about seeking out stress, but about recognizing that when those challenges come up,
As they inevitably do.
we have the power to use that stress to our advantage.
It's about changing our perspective.
And seeing those challenges, not as setbacks, but as opportunities to grow.
I like that.
It's about building that resilience, that ability to bounce back from adversity.
It's a valuable skill.
And we can all develop it.
For sure.
So I challenge you to think about how you can use stress to your advantage. How can you reframe those challenges? How can you use those experiences to learn, grow, and become more resilient?
It's a journey, but it's a worthwhile one.
Absolutely. And with the right tools and mindset, we can all learn to handle the stresses of life and come out stronger on the other side.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into overcoming distress. We'll see you next time.